Welcome, everybody, to Adapter Parish. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. This is a really big episode for us, and I wanted to take a moment here at the beginning to talk about it. More than 2 years ago, Ariel and I recorded our first episode of this show. We never thought that it was a guarantee that anyone would find the show, much less enjoy the show, but here we are 50 episodes later. The last 2 years have been more fun than we ever expected, and it's given us the opportunity to connect with some truly fantastic people, many of whom I hope are listening to this right now. If you're thinking, yeah, but he's probably not talking about me, I can guarantee that I am probably talking about you. Everyone who's taken a chance on a random episode, or subscribed, or left a review, or reached out to us, anything, you're all great, and we appreciate you all. And we have no plan to stop. We've got a great slate of episodes coming up, and we hope you continue to stick with us. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. All right, as always, before we get into it, let's talk about our next episode. So for episode 51, we wanted to go big. So we went very big. We're covering that big, beefy boy, the eighth wonder of the world himself, Kong. We watched the original 1933 classic King Kong. We watched the 1976 Man in Suit remake. We watched Peter Jackson's post-Lord of the Rings Kong remake from 2005. And finally, we watched 2017's Kong Skull Island. That's in 2 weeks on Tuesday, September 10th. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. You picked a fun episode to join. If you enjoy today's show, make sure to subscribe to get every new episode, and remember that we're always looking for suggestions, so don't hesitate to send them our way. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com or tweet at us using the AdaptCast hashtag. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the show notes from this and all other episodes at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, Episode 50, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Ariel Lipshaw, and we are coming to you today live from Adapter Parish Studio B.
Studio B, the new Studio A.
Yeah, well, I guess it is now Studio A because we don't own Studio A anymore.
Now, you've parked something in our new studio.
Yes.
You've parked a bit of a struggle bus.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain to everyone the struggle bus that you're currently riding right now?
Studio B is our new apartment.
Oh, we moved.
We moved. So if it sounds different or weird, we're trying to figure this out also. So we're coming to you. Oh, we also don't have an office anymore. So we're coming to you from our living room. I am facing a bathroom and a liquor cabinet. Mm-hmm. You actually get to sit up at a computer at a desk, and I am sitting on our nice new comfortable couch from IKEA.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you have to sit on a couch with a whole bunch of pillows.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of pillows.
Do you have anything else going on?
I have reached the point in my pregnancy where I need to be supported by at least a dozen pillows at all times. Each one has a different function and support. And basically, Jeremy just follows me around with pillows all day.
Yep. That's essentially what's going on.
Drying my tears and propping me up with pillows. You're going through the normal thing that everyone goes through who goes through this. I hope so.
This is a normal thing.
I really hope so.
You're going through a very normal and beautiful and temporary change, and I love you.
I appreciate
and I'm
that.
attracted to you.
You can.
And
leave
I
that.
want the world to
You
know.
can leave that part out. Do you want to talk about this Charlotte's Web?
Well, it's appropriate that you're talking about tears.
Yeah, and babies.
Yeah, so so we are talking about Charlotte's Web today. Mm-hmm. We are talking about a book. We're talking about the original book. We are talking about the 1973 animated movie. And we are talking about the 2006 live-action movie.
Quote, live action.
Well, live action with special effects.
Live animals.
I have so many notes for the animated movie and the live-action movie. I have one note for the book.
I bet I know what it is.
I bet you know the spirit of it.
Yeah.
What do you think it has to do with?
I think it just says cried the entire time, and I think it's just dripping wet with tears and smudge.
My one note is crying. Period. Crying all the goddamn time. I love this book. And haven't read it in I haven't read this book in 25 years. And I've kind of forgot how many times I read it when I was a kid, but holy shit, I knew every single word, so I must have read this book so many times.
Yeah, it's not the kind of book that you tend to revisit as an adult, I think, unless you have kids.
Well, now I'm going to.
Well, obviously.
But it's one of those weird things where, like, if you asked me, like, what's your favorite book from when you were a kid, I would have come up with a list, and I'm not even sure this would have been on it. But, like, reading through this, I'm like, oh, shit, this is my favorite book.
This is where Templeton goes to the fair.
This is my favorite book.
Yeah.
This is my favorite children's book.
Well, we know that now.
What do you think of Charlotte's Web?
I think this is the difference between you and me.
Yes.
Again, you are a Mr. Rogers person, and I'm a Sesame Street person.
I
think
am never going to agree with that because I love both Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street.
It's just like a couple things.
Yes.
It's fine. I have never been a fan specifically. I guess you could come up with exceptions, but like stories that are just about animals are not as interesting to me as stories about people. And it's just a little bit gentle for me. I think that's what it is. I think it's a little bit gentle and slow paced for me.
How is this book gentle?
I mean,
this pig is about to get murdered multiple times in the course of this book.
It just didn't have the emotional impact on me that it had on you. Also, I really don't like spiders.
Well, okay. Well, that's the only fair thing you've said so far.
I really, really, really don't like spiders.
You have a heart of stone, and you also don't like spiders.
I just don't like spiders.
Which means that Charlotte's Web is not going to hit you the way it hits the rest of us.
I like pigs.
Yeah, they're super cute.
They're really cute. I do eat them sometimes.
Well, that's a huge thing about this too. Is like this book doesn't shy away from that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't love this book the way I do.
No.
And it didn't mean something to you when you were a kid the way it meant to me.
Right. Well, you know, it did mean something to me when I was a kid.
What's that?
The 1973 animated film Charlotte's Web.
Oh, me too. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know that was actually very important to me.
But like, okay, as an adult now with a child on the horizon,
right?
What do you think of this book?
I think it's a really good book. Like it's a good book.
Okay, tell you what. Before we talk about like how we both feel about it, and what we both think about this book, what we both think, I love that we're like trying. The hubris of this show is that we're trying to add to the conversation on Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, well, that's why maybe the book talk part of the show might be a little shorter.
Like, bottom line, find me any list of the best children's books of all time, and Charlotte's Web is going to be on all of them.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't think the world necessarily needs us to hear go on at length about the book Charlotte's Web.
That's fair.
That being said, I do think it's important for the couple of people that maybe don't remember, haven't read it in a long time, maybe they need to hear what this is about. So would you like to read the back of the book, please?
Some pig. These are the words on Charlotte's Web, high in the barn. Her spider web tells of her feelings for a little pig named Wilbur, as well as the feelings of a little girl named Fern, who loves Wilbur too. Their love has been shared by millions of readers.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
So a spider loves a pig, and also a girl loves a pig.
It sounds like it could be like a Harold and Maude type situation or something like that. But that's not really what this is.
Their love could never be.
She doesn't love him that way.
No.
She loves him as a friend.
She loves him almost as a mother.
I feel like theirs is absolutely a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to draw parallels between other, like, let's call them, let's just say it, human relationships. I feel like friend is probably the best way I could say it. I think they literally refer to, like, she says you're my friend, like, constantly.
Yeah, they're good friends.
Yeah. But like, okay, so as a book,
yes.
What's your critique? Add to the conversation, my co-host.
Well, it is interesting because I think that if you're thinking back on your memory as a child, not you personally, but like one might think back on their memory of reading this as a child, but they haven't read it in a long time, they may just think like, oh, it's a sweet story about animals that live in this barn. But the very interesting thing about the author, E.B. White, is that he did not shy away from the harsh reality of living on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the entire plot of the book is Wilbur trying not to be killed.
Yes.
By the farmer,
mm-hmm.
who is a sympathetic character. Like, he's not evil. Like, he's not trying to outwit the evil farmer. It's not Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah. Like, the whole point is not about preventing death. It's about delaying death.
Correct. And then at the end of the book, like, I don't know, I don't think this is a spoiler. Charlotte dies. And there's a lot about how she knows she's going to die and is preparing for it and then dies. Like,
totally.
It is very sad. And nobody, like, it's nobody's fault. That's just, like, how long spiders live. So But I think people do remember that Charlotte dies, but I don't know that they remember that like there's this undercurrent of like death and sadness throughout the entire very short book for young children.
Well, so there is actually someone I'd like to ask about this.
Okay.
I would like to ask the author, E.B. White.
Who is no longer with us, I believe.
No, he's not, but we have some of his words.
Okay.
So, no, I actually found something that I really, really liked, and I wanted to read it kind of in full on the show. It's the book Charlotte's Web. No, it's a letter he wrote.
Okay.
It's a letter he wrote about Charlotte's
We
Web.
probably could read the whole book. We did that for Where the Wild Things Are.
That was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think this would take. I actually think the audiobook is like 3.5 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So basically, like his publisher said, like, how did you write this? Like, where did this actually come from? And he sent a letter back. I'm going to link to this in the show notes. And I want to read the letter that he wrote. I have been asked to tell how I came to write Charlotte's Web. Well, I like animals, and it would be odd if I failed to write about them. Animals are a weakness with me, and when I got a place in the country, I was quite sure animals would appear, and they did. A farm is a peculiar problem for a man who likes animals because the fate of most livestock is that they are murdered by their benefactors. The creatures may live serenely, but they end violently, and the odor of doom hangs about them always. I have kept several pigs, starting them in spring as weanlings and carrying trays to them all through summer and fall. The relationship bothered me. Day by day, I became better acquainted with my pig and he with me, and the fact that the whole adventure pointed toward an eventual piece of double dealing on my part lent an eerie quality to the thing. I do not like to betray a person or a creature, and I tend to agree with Mr. E.M. Forster that in these times the duty of a man above all else is to be reliable. Sidebar, you should listen to our Howard's End episode. We cover Forster for the first time. It used to be clear to me, slopping a pig, that as far as the pig was concerned, I could not be counted on, and this, as I say, troubled me. Anyway, the theme of Charlotte's Web is that a pig shall be saved, and I have an idea that somewhere deep inside me there was a wish to that effect. As for Charlotte herself, I had never paid much attention to spiders until a few years ago. Once you begin watching spiders, you haven't time for much else. The world is really loaded with them. I do not find them repulsive or revolting any more than I find anything in nature repulsive or revolting, and I think it's too bad that children are often corrupted by their elders in this hate campaign. Spiders are skillful, amusing, and useful, and only in rare instances has anybody ever come to grief because of a spider. One cold October evening, you're going to hate this part, I was lucky enough to see Arania cavatica spin her egg sac and deposit her eggs. I did not know her name at the time, but I admired her, and later Mr. Willis J. Gertsch of the American Museum of Natural History told me her name. When I saw that she was fixing to become a mother, I got a stepladder and an extension light and had an excellent view of the whole business. A few days later, when it was time to return to New York, not wishing to part with my spider, I took a razor blade, cut the sack adrift from the underside of the shed roof, put spider and sack in a candy box, and carried them to town.
Oh.
I tossed the box in my dresser.
Oh, it's full of spider babies.
Some weeks later, I was surprised and pleased to find that Charlotte's daughters were emerging from their air holes in the cover of the box.
Oh my god, it's my worst nightmare.
They strung tiny lines from my comb to my brush, from my brush to my mirror, and from my mirror to my nail scissors. They were very busy and almost invisible. They were so small. We all lived together happily for a couple of weeks, and then somebody whose duty it was to dust my dresser balked, and I broke up the show. At the present time, 3 of Charlotte's granddaughters are trapping at the foot of the stairs in my barn cellar, where the morning light, coming through the east window, illuminates their embroidery and makes it seem even more wonderful than it is. Oh, God!
So I was getting a little choked up.
I haven't told why I wrote the book, but I haven't told you why I sneeze either. A book is a sneeze.
Well, that's lovely.
I'm crying.
I was getting a little choked up when you were talking about how he didn't want to kill the pig and the pig was his friend.
But fuck a spider,
and
right?
then you started talking about spiders and you lost me. You lost me entirely.
Let me ask you this. How do you like every other bug that isn't a spider?
Not great.
Not great, right? Do you know what spiders do?
Yeah. They kill him.
They kill him.
I don't like the way they move. I don't like their creepy legs.
They're super creepy crawly. Here's the deal. I've now reread Charlotte's Web. We watched 2 different movies about it. And I just want to say, I genuinely feel that my intense fear of spiders has abated slightly.
A little. You saw a caterpillar the other day and you were fine with it.
Caterpillars don't bother me. That's totally fine. I was in our new basement and I saw one of the northeast United States centipedes with hair coming out of them and everything like that. And it was 2 feet away from my face. And you know what I did?
Screamed.
No, I did nothing. I said, hey, buddy, you eat lots of smaller bugs, and I bet you don't want to be here either. And it ran away. And that is totally fine with me because I didn't want to confront. All I'm saying is I don't love them. I don't want to touch them. I don't want them to jump at me and go in your mouth, because that's what bugs do, right?
Never, ever have done that ever to anyone in the whole world.
If bugs want to jump at you and crawl in your mouth, that is what bugs do. No spider has ever done that to me. I feel like I'm a little bit better with spiders having gone through this experience. So like whether this was good for you or not, I'll just say I've grown as a person.
How do you feel about moths?
Fuck them. Fuck those pieces of shit. I hate moths so goddamn much. I hate any bug whose entire job in this world is to turn into gross dust every time you even look at them. You can't even touch a moth without it turning into gross, slimy. How is it dry and wet at the same time? I don't understand.
We were sitting outside a couple weeks ago with some friends of ours on their lovely patio, and they had set up some citronella candles to keep the mosquitoes off. And I don't know what it was. It was like a swarm of Japanese beetles, but they were like attracted to the light,
citronella candle.
To the citronella candle, but then they were committing suicide into it.
It's like they didn't go to the weekly meeting.
Yeah, they were just like plummeting like kamikazes. I don't want to say that because it's a Japanese beetle. That's a little rude. I'm going to say something else.
That's kind of fucked up. I'm keeping this, but you say a different thing. Go for it.
Don't keep it.
I'm keeping it.
They were just plummeting like lemmings off a cliff into the wax.
You know,
and
lemmings
drowning.
don't do that, right?
We're so far off topic. Can you just let me finish this story?
I'm so sorry, but that was something that the Disney Channel did. They pushed him off a cliff. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
They were like drawn to the light, and then they were just dropping into the wax at the bottom of the candle and drowning. By the time we got fed up with it and went inside, there were like 10 or 12 beetles in the bottom of this little candle. It was the craziest thing.
Well, we were trying to have a conversation, and it didn't happen because we were just watching the beetles committing suicide.
Yeah, it was awful.
Super, super messed up. Bugs are gross. But anyway, Charlotte's Web.
I feel like we're getting a lot out in this episode. We're going through a lot.
I had to process a lot of stuff with this. I cried so much. Do you know who else cried about Charlotte's Web?
Who?
So there is someone that we are big fans of. His name is John Hodgman. A lot of people know John Hodgman. He's a fellow podcaster. I said that like we're peers. We're not peers.
We've never met. Actually, that's not true. We have met him.
No,
we both met him.
Yeah, we met him. He's super, super nice. He actually has followed E.B. White's kind of same trajectory, where he's like a guy from New York who is a writer, literally moved to the same area of Maine and loves E.B. White. I know he's a big fan of E.B. White, and someone was asking him in an interview, what was the last book that made you cry? And I want to read his response. He referred to a book that he had been talking about before, but then he went on to say, but I will also say that listening to E.B. White read the last chapter of Charlotte's Web while leaving Maine a summer or two ago made for a dangerous driving experience. I could not see through that many tears. Boy, oh boy, does that guy have the goods. And if you have a daughter who's getting older, it will get you. This guy loves E.B. White. And John Hodgman is going to come up later in the show,
okay.
I will say.
Great.
I'm just going to plant that seed
Put
right
that out there.
But holy shit, I love this book so much.
I mean, other than working out some of your feelings about bugs,
I have lots of them.
What do you love about this book?
I love the way, you already talked about it a little bit, but I love the way it doesn't pull its punches.
Mm-hmm.
This is a book that is... it's really, really interested in telling themes of friendship, which is like a trigger for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make me cry, talk about people being friends and like supporting each other.
Yeah, for sure.
That is going to make me cry. But the thing I appreciate about the book, and now looking back on it, realize the effect that it had on me, is that this book deals, I would say, primarily in kind of two different themes. One is growing up and one is death. And these are things that I really want children's books to deal with because children should hear these things.
Mm-hmm.
Children need to grow by hearing these things. So, like, what are the things that happen in the book that are about growing up and maturing?
Well, this goes right into something that I wanted to say, which was something I did not remember even a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know that this is like you're sort of coming at it from a serious perspective.
Semi.
Things that touched you. This was the one thing that I found incredibly weird and a little fucked up. So Fern is the little girl.
I think incredibly weird and a little fucked up is our favorite stuff for the show.
So Fern is the little girl
Yep.
Who has saved Wilbur, the runty pig, from her father's terrible axe. And
Papa, where are you going with that axe?
Literally the first line of the book.
Oh, God.
And after a few weeks, she can no longer really care for him in the house. And so he goes across the way to live with her uncle on his farm. And every day after school, she walks across the road and goes and quietly sits in the barn and just watches Wilbur and all the other animals all day.
And listens to them talk
And
to
listens
each other.
to them talk. She's the only one that can understand them because she is an innocent child.
But it's a kid's book, so we don't really need to get into that.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't bear conversation.
So her mother and Fern is about 8 years old.
Yep.
And her mother becomes concerned that she is spending all of her time this way. So concerned that she goes to the family doctor about her concerns for Fern. And they have a very strange conversation where the doctor essentially tells her, it's fine, don't worry, she'll be interested in boys soon enough, let her be. But the mother says it's not natural for a little girl to be so interested in animals, like as if animals are a boy thing rather than a girl thing. And that was the thing that I really honed in on, as something that I was like, is that true? Because I think all little kids are really interested in animals, and I never thought of that interest as being gendered, but that could just be, not even traditionally, but I guess that could just be me. Did that not strike you as a little bit weird?
No, it didn't strike me as weird, and I will tell you why.
Okay.
I don't think the adults in this book, and I think this is true for most kids' books, like, adults are not always presented in the best light.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I don't actually think you need to put that much stock in whatever a grown-up says in a kid's book.
Yeah.
Except for, like, the one grown-up that's really inspirational to the main character. You know?
Who's that?
No, in any book.
Oh, I see.
Like, I'm saying if there is a kid's book where a kid, like, really looks up to one individual adult, like, yeah, you've got to listen to everything that adult says, but usually every other adult is full of shit to, like, some extent.
That's fair. It was just such a weird conversation that it reminded me of, like, Mrs. Pigglewiggle. Like that this was this weird problem that this kid had, and the mother was being counseled about what to do about this weird problem.
Although, to be fair, like, the person counseling her, what does he immediately say?
He says it's fine.
Exactly. And so he's the one that E.B. White is setting up these two characters, because he's basically saying, look, I understand a parent is probably going to be concerned about what's going on right here, but she's kind of dumb. Here's this adult that's more in tune with, like, people and life and everything like that, and he's going to set her straight. And then, does it become a plot point later?
Well, he says she'll be fine. Is there a boy she likes?
No. I mean, like, does the mother's concern about her daughter's obsession with animals, does that ever come up later?
Well, no, other than the fact that it lifts because she sees Fern become interested in this dumb boy.
But what I'm saying is she was wrong to be concerned about that.
Yes.
And that's the point that's driven home.
Yes, fair enough. Henry Fussy.
No,
whatever.
Yeah, he sucks, but, like, I don't think E.B. White loves him. What Fern goes through, I think, is a realistic thing. I'm not saying it's a common thing. I'm not saying everyone goes through it, but I'm not saying it, like, rang untrue to me.
I just didn't enjoy the mother's comfort in thinking about her 8-year-old daughter starting to be interested in a boy.
I get that.
That seems premature and bad.
I feel like the thing inside you that is causing you to have a reaction to that is, like, it lives in your brain right next to the thing inside you that feels a certain way about spiders that causes you to be set against the book in that way. Like, I think there's a lot of you coming to the table right now.
I'm not set against it.
I feel bad that you hate Charlotte's Web.
That is rude and inaccurate. I never said I hated Charlotte's Web.
Okay.
I said I didn't have as strong of an emotional reaction to it as you did. So you are doing a straw man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're my straw man.
You're a straw man.
Okay. So, bottom line, I love this book. It is wonderful. Every child should read it. I am, here's the thing. The thing that made me cry so much this time wasn't just, like, the content of the book, which was that's probably like 80% of it, but probably like 20% of it was, like, the fact that we're having a child.
Yeah.
And it adds another level to everything.
I get it.
Yeah, it's a new lens for me to look through.
I get it.
And the idea that maybe I would someday sit and read Charlotte's Web to my kid and have, like, I feel like this is a point where every kid is going to look up to their parents and say, hey, that book that you had me read, or this book that I read at school talked about, like, things dying a whole lot. Am I going to die? Are you going to die? And, like, that's a conversation that needs to happen at some point. This goes back to the thing you were saying at the very beginning about, like, Mr. Rogers versus Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Sesame Street was super interested in talking about people dying.
Totally untrue. Did you ever watch the Mr. Hooper episode where Mr. Hooper died?
I was thinking about it as I was saying it. I kind of realized I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know if they lean into it as much as Mr. Rogers did.
Unclear.
We seem to be at an impasse. Anyway, kids hearing about death is a good thing.
Sure.
Are we good on that?
Yeah.
I feel like we're good on that.
I guess it's fine.
But the book is so much more than that, and it's really funny, it's really cute, and it's wonderful, and I love it. And again, if you want to hear more about Charlotte's Web, look anywhere else in the world, and you will hear opinions about Charlotte's Web. Now, this book came out in 1952, and then about 20-something years later, it was made into a movie, and this was an animated movie. It had a long and troubled production.
Oh, no.
Sorry, a long and troubled development.
Gotcha.
Let me be clear about that. I feel like the production seems to have gone very smoothly, but the development of it, not so much. I will let everybody know there is an amazing piece of writing that we are going to be linking to in the show notes, written by a guy named Gene Deitch. I do not know how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to pronounce it Deitch.
It's probably close enough.
Yeah. He was one of the people who was going to direct this and then ended up not doing it. This might be one of my favorite pieces of writing on a movie not getting made, like a version of a movie not getting made. It's a great window. I am going to link to it in the show notes. So here's kind of the quick version of everything. The book was published in 1952. In 1967, the rights to make a movie went to a couple who produced movies, animated movies, named John and Faith Hubley. Okay?
Yeah.
E.B. White liked them. Okay, this is important. Like,
Okay.
he liked them. He trusted them.
Mm-hmm.
It fell through because they couldn't get funding.
Gotcha.
That's essentially what happened. Then the rights to it went to a guy named Edgar Bronfman.
Okay.
He was basically one of the owners. Like, his family owns Seagram's.
Great.
Okay? So lots of liquor. There's a lot of money there.
Gotcha.
And he had a film company subsidiary named Sagittarius. And they wanted to make it. At this point, the big thing that I learned about this that I just think is so fascinating, and you read some of this as well, is how little E.B. White knew about what it was to have a movie made about something that you wrote.
Yeah, there's like a series of letters that E.B. White wrote to, I guess, his lawyer about how he didn't understand the contract very well.
Like, I want to read a selection. So
Yeah.
here's just one little piece of one of those letters. And this was originally when it was with the Hubleys. And he's writing to his lawyer, and he says, Dear Al, your proposed terms of contract sound all right to me, all 12 of them. I'm not sure I understand 3B. In addition to a fee of $20,000, the Hubleys will share in the alleged profits, won't they? You'll have to excuse my ignorance in these matters. I'm putting a lot of, like, acting into this. I apologize. In point 4, I don't know what, quote, merchandising rights means. Does this refer to my right subsequently to make other deals, or does it refer to objects of merchandise, dolls, pigs, sweatshirts? Again, excuse ignorance. There should probably be a clause somewhere prohibiting the publication in book form of the screenplay or of any other adaptation of my book. When Disney made Mary Poppins, he got out a book, The Walt Disney Mary Poppins. I'm against anything of that sort.
Well, good for him.
No, totally. And then it goes on, and they kind of work everything out. But it's very clear to him, and I want to read this one other part. I want the chance to edit the script wherever anything turns up that is a gross departure or a gross violation. I would also like to be protected against the insertion of wholly new material, songs, jokes, capers, episodes.
Oh boy.
Does any of that happen in the animated movie?
All of them? Well, apparently what E.B. White's vision was when he met with this guy that was supposed to direct it, who was living in like Czechoslovakia at the time.
So this was later. This was originally with the Hubleys. Then that funding fell through, and it went to another company, Sagittarius, and they were contracting this guy named Deitch, who wrote this article, who was living in Czechoslovakia.
Right. So Deitch came to see him in Maine and found that he had, like, I mean, this couldn't have been so easy, like in the late 60s, but like he had borrowed or found some audio equipment and done the audiobook, like just for his own purposes.
They did that. He recorded the audiobook.
He recorded it. Right, but he just did it on his own. According to this guy.
Yeah.
And it was like 3.5 hours long, as you say. And basically what his vision was for the movie just to sort of take place, for his narration to play underneath the entire movie, and the movie just to basically illustrate that narration. And the director sort of had to gently explain to him that he could not make a 3.5 hour version of Charlotte's Web that was just E.B. White's narration. Like, it could not be done.
Essentially. Like, he seemed to be very clear about what he wanted, but he wasn't super clear about what was possible.
Right.
But he knew he wanted control. Now, I think it's important to kind of move on right now because this fell through.
Yeah.
And it moved on to this company called Sagittarius, who was contracting with this guy Deitch. And at this point, his entire contract changed. Like, Deitch was like, I saw the letters from the original production of it. And by the way, he was a huge fan of Hughley. He was like, my God, this guy's my hero. Like, he almost made this movie and now I might be directing it. This is one line from the contract for that kind of went on with. He basically said he would have the right of approval of the model of Charlotte and her voice, and that was it.
E.B. Whitewood.
E.B. Whitewood.
Yeah.
He would have right of approval on nothing else. So it was just crazy to him that he went from having this like really intense right of approval in his previous contract to essentially being able to approve nothing in the version that he was going to be working on.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do a good version. Like, he wasn't saying, oh, this guy's an idiot, I'm going to make something that's super different. He wanted to do it.
No, and from his writing, he also clearly loved E.B. White and really treasured the friendship they formed, despite the fact that he never actually made this movie.
Yeah, basically. So other things I found out that just made me really sad, it was all about E.B. White's finances. He basically, like, he didn't have any money. He and his publisher had essentially worked out a deal where the royalties they would give him for his books, like Stuart Little and Charlotte's Web, needed to be less than a certain amount every year so he could avoid a level of taxation.
Oh, boy.
And so essentially they were holding on to money for him that they had been earning that they couldn't pay out to him.
Oh, my God.
And that was why he wrote Trumpet of the Swan, was as a way to get all of that money.
Oh, my God.
They essentially used all of the money that he had already earned to pay him in advance.
Oh, to give him an advance.
For Trumpet of the Swan.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
It's just so sad. Like, he sounded like this sick old man 20 years past writing Charlotte's Web, and just all these people trying to take advantage of him.
Oh, my God.
It just made me really, really sad. Then we moved, Sagittarius then made a deal with Hanna-Barbera of everything Hanna-Barbera ever did.
Right.
And then they ended up making this movie.
Yes.
I find all of this fascinating. I would recommend that anybody read through this entire article. It's great.
Yes.
So here's some people that made this movie. So it was produced by Hanna and Barbera. It was directed by Charles A. Nichols. He is the creator of Hong Kong Phooey.
Good.
And Iwao Takamoto, who designed Scooby-Doo, the Astro from the Jetsons, and Penelope Pitstop herself.
Great.
They directed this.
Uh-huh.
The story was by Earl Hamner, who kind of created the Waltons.
Okay.
And music.
Well, let's talk about the music in a minute.
Do you want me to save that?
Yeah, let's save that.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's entirely fine.
So now we have this movie. We'll get into the cast, but we have this animated movie of Charlotte's Web produced by Hanna-Barbera.
Yes. This movie I had deep emotional memories of.
Yeah. When was the last time you watched it before we did?
25 years ago.
Yeah.
At least.
Mm-hmm. How much of it did you remember as you started watching it?
I remembered, honestly, I was having like really strong sense memories of like nearly all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing I didn't remember.
Yeah.
This movie's really bad.
It's not great. It's really not great.
It's not great. It's not great. I remembered a couple of the songs really, really strongly, but there are a couple of the songs that I was like, oh, I have no memory of this song, and I think I know why. It's not a very good song.
And what did you do with the VHS that you had, probably?
Probably fast forwarded it.
Yeah, probably.
For sure.
Like what about There Must Be Something More? Do you remember There Must Be Something More?
I do not remember that.
I
don't remember it now.
This is the song that Fern sings to Wilbur when she first adopts him.
Yeah.
And it's the song about how in love they are as friends and how much she loves him.
It has nothing to do with farms or pigs or spiders or anything. It is literally the most generic song you can possibly imagine.
Could be sung by anybody to anybody that they kind of like.
Well, that was the problem that I had, if you recall, with a lot of the Pete's Dragon songs.
Yeah.
We did Pete's Dragon.
I get that. I totally get that.
And I wonder if that was like sort of a thing at the time, because speaking of Disney, I guess let's talk about it for a second.
Okay.
Since we're talking about the songs.
Who wrote all these songs?
As we were listening to the songs, I went, this sounds kind of like Mary Poppins. And then we looked, and it's the goddamn Sherman Brothers.
Yep.
Who wrote Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Who now I can only see, now that we've watched Saving Mr. Banks, to me the Sherman Brothers are Jason Schwartzman and BJ Novak.
Yeah.
Like, they wrote all of the... I don't want to call them awful. They're fine. The nothing songs that are in Charlotte's Web.
Yes, but they also wrote the good ones, like Affair is a Veritable Smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord, Orgasbord.
Yeah.
It's
really bad. No, it's terrible. That
It's
was the one
actually
song
not good.
That was the one song I remembered.
I do think this movie, and we'll get into it, this movie has some things that I actually don't have any problem with whatsoever.
Yeah.
And one of those is Templeton.
Yeah, you like Templeton.
No, I have no problem with him whatsoever. It is a perfect representation. Yes, there's songs in it, and E.B. White didn't want songs, so you know what? It shouldn't have songs.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go out there and say it should not have songs. It does. Even though Templeton sings, I have actually no problem with Templeton in this movie whatsoever.
Templeton is portrayed by a legend of stage and screen.
Tony Randall.
Isn't it Paul Lynde?
No, it was Tony Randall originally. He recorded everything, and then they thought, man, we're really disappointed. Everything he recorded sounds really flat. And they re-recorded every single thing with him with Paul Lynde, because Paul Lynde was working on The Perils of Penelope Pitstop.
Well, Paul Lynde is amazing.
He's amazing. They should have gotten him originally.
They should have gotten him originally.
He's incredible.
I don't know why I wrote this down, but one of my notes is Templeton can't help being a rat.
No, he can't.
And I think that's part of the appeal of Charlotte's Web, maybe in general, is that every animal is kind of celebrated for what they are and not expected to be more than what they are, other than kind of Wilbur, because he's trying not to be killed like the other pigs. So the sort of message is, well, okay, but if you don't want to live an ordinary pig life where you get killed at the end of the summer for bacon, then you have to be extraordinary in some way. You have to transcend pigness in some way.
God, I don't even know if that is the message, but it is definitely there.
It's a message.
That's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong to say that. How about we talk about who's in this?
Sure.
So I have there's some good things about the voice cast. We've just now talked about Paul Lynde as Templeton, who is just goddamn wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about everyone in this cast, though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through them.
Okay.
I'm going to go in reverse order, actually.
Okay.
I want to start with the very first voice we ever hear in this entire movie.
Okay.
And that is from the narrator.
Yes.
Who is portrayed by Rex Allen. Rex Allen is an actor, real kind of like cowboy, folksy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Folksy's good.
Yeah, throughout the whole movie, right?
Yeah.
Quick little spoiler alert for the 2006 version. There's a narrator there, too. Would you say they basically did the same thing?
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing. I got a weird nominee for Sir not appearing in this film.
Okay, I think I know who you're going to say.
Who am I going to say?
E.B. White.
100%. That is exactly who I'm going to say.
Because he wanted to do the narration, really badly.
E.B. White is not folksy. He's not country. He's New York.
Yeah.
He's very New York. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up John Hodgman again. Finding out that John Hodgman really loves E.B. White and loves Charlotte Webb, it was so great to be able to read this now, hearing a voice in my head, because I'd never heard E.B. White's voice before. But the voice that I'm hearing is someone from the city, someone who is observing what it's like in the country, but someone who's not, steeped in the country. Does that make sense?
He's from away.
Yeah.
I mean, you are literally speaking as someone who was born in New York and grew up in Maine.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like you are having a personal moment here.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for helping me unpack it.
I appreciate that.
So I actually think that if you're going to take the narration from this and make the assumption that it should be something very kind of folksy, I actually think you're misinterpreting the book. And I do not think that's the voice that the book is written in. E.B. White is my nominee for Sir not appearing in this film.
That's fair enough.
All right. Now we got a couple other people as well. One of the next voices we hear is Pamela Ferdin as Fern Arable.
Oh, I had such a problem with this.
How old is Fern Arable?
She is 8 years old.
How old does Fern Arable sound in this movie?
25.
Easily.
If she's a day.
Easily 25.
And she's animated to look about 16.
Like 13 or something like that.
No, like a teenager, but short, like a short teenager.
Kind of. And she sounds like an adult woman.
Yeah.
What's the message? I feel like we have banged the drum on this message so many times in this show. When you have a character who is supposed to be a child, but they are portrayed or voiced by an adult, what ends up happening?
Stunted.
They come out stunted.
Weirdly stunted.
They feel weird. They don't feel like a child anymore. They feel like
like a dumb adult.
I really don't like it. Do you have anything else to say about Fern right now?
I mean, this movie portrays her as a complete piece of shit by the end of the film, but I guess we'll come to that.
It's kind of in the book. It's just part of life.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. Then we meet Wilbur. Now, I have another problem with this.
Okay.
Wilbur is voiced by an actor named Henry Gibson. This is like everyone in this movie was like a who's who of just television in the 70s.
Yeah.
Henry Gibson was on a lot of different shows. He was on Laugh-In. I know him very well. He portrayed one of the Illinois Nazis in The Blues Brothers.
Great.
He's like the leader of the Illinois Nazis. He's a very, very funny actor. I have an intense problem with Henry Gibson playing Wilbur in this movie. Would you like to know what that is?
I think I do know. I think it's similar to the problem with Fern.
What did you think my problem is?
Wilbur's a baby pig.
Baby pig.
He's a tiny baby
Tiny
pig.
little child baby pig.
Baby pig.
Is Henry Gibson a tiny little child?
No, he's an adult man.
Grown ass man. Like, he doesn't do a bad job, but
Wilbur just has like the deepest voice in the world. And he's supposed to be so sweet and innocent and adorable. And he sounds like an old man being weird. It's not good.
it just doesn't work. And that's my biggest problem. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like the worst thing I've ever heard, but it is certainly not as good as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's fine if you can get past the fact that the voice of Wilbur in the book is not that of an adult man, then he's fine. Henry Gibson does a good job, but I can't get past that.
Yeah.
Then we have Charlotte, who is portrayed by Debbie Reynolds.
Which I think is good casting.
I think that's great casting. I
Yeah.
have no problem with Debbie Reynolds in this. She said she would do it for free.
Aw.
That's how much she likes Charlotte's Web.
That's really sweet.
I think that is really sweet.
Yeah.
I got no problem with Debbie Reynolds in this.
I hope that they did pay her for her work.
I'm sure they did.
Good.
No, I'm sure her. I bet
Her agent was like, no.
Yeah, like Debbie. No, that's not happening.
You're the biggest name they have.
That is not happening. I'm so sorry. No.
I'm just saying, like, women asked to get paid for your talents.
Absolutely. I think she's good. So, like, she and Paul Lynde I put in one category where that's actually, like, really good casting.
Yeah.
And I put Pamela Ferdin and Henry Gibson in another category that's bad casting.
Yeah.
And Rex Allen as well. And the last person that I wrote down who I think is of note, and I think this is really important to talk about what I feel they didn't get right about this movie, is Agnes Morehead as the Goose.
Okay.
Agnes Morehead, of course, was... whatever her name was. It's like the mom in Bewitched. What's her name?
I don't know.
Hang on.
Elvis?
No, it's
Ella?
Endora.
Endora.
She played Endora on Bewitched.
She's kind of a grande dame. Like, she has a very, like, fancy voice.
How is the Goose? Who, by the way, doesn't have a name. I think this is important. And then something this gets right is, like, none of the animals have names.
Yeah, she's just a goose.
She's just a goose.
Yeah.
How is the goose's voice described in the book?
She, like, repeats everything 3 times.
Because of how fast she's talking.
Yeah, she's like, because she gobbles, because she's a goose. Gobble, 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 gobble.
I want to find this really quickly.
Okay.
So Wilbur's basically saying to himself, when I'm out here, he said, there's no place to go but in. When I'm indoors, there's no place to go but out in the yard. He's just arrived at the Zuckerman's farm, and he's bored. And he hears a voice that just says, "That's where you're wrong, my friend," said a voice. Wilbur looked through the fence and saw the goose standing there. "You don't have to stay in that dirty little...
It's hard to say.
Yeah. "You don't have to stay in that dirty little yard," said the goose, who talked rather fast. "One of the boards is loose. Push on it. Push on it and come on out." "What?" said Wilbur. "Say it slower." Okay, so there we have... text. We have actual text from the book. We have E.B. White telling us, the reader, how the goose talks.
Yes.
The goose talks really, really fast, constantly repeats herself and, like, changes words around and stuff like that. Agnes Morehead 100% does not read the lines that way.
She has extremely good enunciation.
She's she talks very big, very dramatic, very slowly. You hear every single thing she says. No one ever needs her to repeat herself, but she does repeat herself constantly. She talks, she says the same lines that the goose says in the book, but she doesn't say it at all like the goose says it in the book.
Yeah, so the line you just said, it would be more like, "Come out of that dirty little pond."
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And that's exactly how it is. And this is an example where if you don't get it, don't do it.
Right.
Like,
well, or just she should have been directed better or cast better, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe she wasn't cast right for this. She's not the person you should be getting if you want your character to be talking really fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I don't like. And I feel like that's an example throughout where I actually don't think the people who were making this got the flavor of the story. I think they got the bones of the story.
Mm-hmm.
They don't shy away from death.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's really good about it.
That's true.
Charlotte bites it at the end.
Fully bites
Wilbur
it.
is constantly afraid of dying. He is about to be killed by an axe in the beginning. It is totally clear to the little kiddies watching it that he's going to be eaten by the Zuckermans.
And he faints a lot.
He sure does. He really does. This movie does a fine job.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
It's enjoyable.
Like, it's fine.
Yeah. So, okay, we haven't really dug into. We're like 3/4 of the way through this episode. We haven't really dug into the plot yet.
And
So-
the movie does get the plot right. So yes,
yeah.
please go ahead.
So basically, the plot is that Wilbur finds himself on this farm with the Zuckermans, and he learns from the other animals that the way that you deal with a pig is you raise him up and you get him really fat in the springtime, in the summer, and then in the autumn he's killed for bacon and sausage.
You eat him.
You eat him until
him.
you kill him and eat him, and he's delicious. And Wilbur is very afraid of this. He does not wish to be killed, and is very despondent. And one day he hears this voice that he doesn't know where it's coming from, and it turns out that it is a spider named Charlotte who lives in the doorway up above him, and she spins beautiful webs. And she says to him, I want to be your friend, and I'm going to help you not be killed. And so they become fast friends. And the strategy that she hits upon for making him not be killed is for the farmer to recognize that he's an exceptional pig. And what she does is she starts spinning words into her web that relate to the pig. So the first one that she spins is some pig.
He is an amount of pig. How much pig would you like?
Some.
You like some pig.
Some pig.
I'll take some pig.
He is some pig. And everyone is amazed by this, and people come from miles around to see the amazing pig.
Because, of course, the amazing thing in that situation is not the spider that spun the web.
Well, this is my favorite line from the whole book, which is that the very first morning, they all troop out to see this amazing miracle. And Zuckerman is like, oh my gosh, we have this amazing pig. And Mrs. Zuckerman says, I think you're wrong. I think we have an amazing spider. But that never gets and she's absolutely right.
Yep.
She never gets revisited. And I just think it's all on the theme of women not getting appropriate recompense for their labors.
Kind of goes against what I was saying before about adults in kids' books.
Yeah.
She is right, though.
She is right. She's 100% right. Anyway, and people come from miles around to see him, and Charlotte keeps spinning different messages into the web, and he's so wonderful that they decide to take him to the fair to exhibit him with the other wonderful pigs. And that's sort of the big showpiece of the book, that everybody goes to the fair. But while they're at the fair, he actually doesn't win the blue ribbon, because the blue ribbon is for the biggest pig, and he is not the biggest. He's little because he's a runt. But he gets a special reward for being magnificent. And Zuckerman declares that he will never eat him. And all is well, except that Charlotte has spun her last masterpiece, which is her egg sack full of 500 tiny, awful, disgusting baby spiders.
They're really cute. Go on.
And bites it. Dies right there at the fair. And Wilbur manages to transport the egg sack back to the barn so that he can sort of raise up Charlotte's spider daughters.
How does he bring them back to the barn?
In his mouth.
I found it super gross, but it didn't hurt me the way it used to.
Both he and Templeton carry the spider sack in their mouths.
Yeah, fuck Templeton.
Oh.
He's a piece of shit. And Paul Linda's perfect.
So gross. And the other thing that I will say about the fair is that one of the things we learn is that Fern has completely forgotten her previous relationship with this pig that she loved so well, and is a complete shit, and refuses to even go to the ceremony where he's being honored because she wants to ride the Ferris wheel with stupid Henry Fussy, of whom my only note is all caps, you need glasses to see. you can't just take off your glasses and suddenly be attractive. It does not work that way.
It's super weird because Henry Fussy shows up at the beginning. I don't even remember what happened, but one of my notes is just all caps shenanigans at Henry's house.
Yeah, he's like the pig escapes and runs into Henry's house, and his mom is really strict. And
I forgot about
the pig
that.
causes all kinds of chaos, and Henry's like a big nerd.
And this is like literally the thing that E.B. White said he didn't want.
Literally shenanigans. That's what he did not want.
Like, I'm finding what he said specifically. Here is what I don't want. Songs, jokes, capers, and episodes.
Yeah.
We experience jokes and capers during an episode immediately following a song.
Yes.
It's a whole bunch of bullshit. EB, I'm sorry.
This is all true.
Andy, I guess. I guess he went by Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Henry Fussy shows up at the fair, and suddenly he's like not a nerd anymore, and Fern is into him, and she's 8. They're 8.
He's literally like a different character.
We were like, wait,
the character design is literally different.
It's literally different. He's completely different.
Which is the thing that I can see happening in a TV show, but I can't see it happening within one movie.
Yeah.
A self-contained movie.
So anyway.
It's lazy. It's Hanna-Barbera, so they're trying to cut corners wherever they can. The animation is okay. The character design is fine. Wilbur's really cute.
He's super cute. Just his voice is weird.
Yeah. Charlotte looks okay. They definitely like give her a human face.
I mean, I can offer no opinion on Charlotte because, as we have established on multiple occasions, I hate spiders.
Yeah, it's fine. They do weird things. They give Wilbur a little friend, one of the Goslings.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like he's got a whole bullshit song that just says we've got lots in common.
Yeah.
Like they've got to give him a friend and then give him a. I wonder where this came from because I wonder if they like needed a song break and they thought, okay, what's a song about like friendship? Let's have a song about how he's got lots in common with someone. Oh, we'll give him a little friend and who's like younger than him that he can talk to because like Wilbur was just born,
Yeah.
but now he's talking to a Gosling that was just born.
Yeah.
And it's such a stupid song. It's a stupid song that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the story. It has nothing to do with Wilbur. It has nothing to do with Charlotte. I hate it. And they also lose track of how many Goslings there are. Do you remember that?
Yeah, because a big plot point is that the goose laid like 8 eggs, but one was a dud, so there's 7 Goslings, and it is actually an important plot point because shenanigans happens with the rotten egg. But then at one point there are 8 ducklings. It's very confusing.
There's like 7 under her, but then the one is with Wilbur.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It's really, really stupid. I wrote this down. There's the song Mother Earth and Father Time.
Oh God, I hated this song.
But here's the only thing. That's the only song that needed to be in Charlotte's Web because it's the only song that has the lyric Charlotte's Web.
Yes, it did talk about Charlotte's
It can't be
Web.
in anything other than Charlotte's Web.
Yeah.
Because of that.
The one about we've got lots in common, at one point I think one does say I'm a pig and you're a duck, or like I've got skin and you've got feathers or something.
I
so
guess
it's
he
like
does.
At least slightly relevant.
I'm convinced too that Zuckerman's famous pig,
Oh,
not
that
favorite.
Zuckerman's Famous Pig is a good song.
It's like, yeah, it's a good song, but like I'm convinced that the underlying musical structure of the song is the same as the theme from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, like I do think it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's no great conspiracy theory. They were written by the same people. But
It keeps the core of the story. Like it definitely does that. If I make the assumption that the filmmakers didn't know that E.B. White didn't want like songs in this movie, I would assume from my viewing that this was a respectful production.
Yeah.
A respectful adaptation. I do think they were trying to do a good job adapting a book that's really good and really loved.
Yeah.
And they keep the basic bones of the plot. But they add all this stuff on. It's kind of like the combination of all the shit that they add and the mediocre songs combined with the really, really mediocre animation adds up to something that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine, but like I guess the only thing I will say for it is like I watched this a million times as a kid and I really loved it, and I did not remember from being a kid that it was bad.
Yeah.
So like if you are a child, you may like it. Or if you have children, they may really like it.
Yeah.
They may find it really enjoyable.
It's just, I don't know, there's something really special about being able to revisit something from when you were a kid and not only find out that it was as good as you remember it, but also there's new things in it for you to pull out.
Yeah.
That's a really special experience, and I feel like it happens a lot.
Yeah, but that was not this.
That's not this.
No.
That really, really isn't this.
You know what that was for me?
What was that?
With the link to the Sherman Brothers, it was Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
When we did Mary Poppins, I think we both liked it more than we thought we would.
Yeah, I actively disliked it when I was a kid.
Yeah,
And like, I kind of liked it now.
And I liked it when I was a kid, and I liked it. Like, there was other stuff in it that I really appreciated. Anyway, listen to our Mary Poppins episode. It's good.
Yeah. But just there's so much stuff in it I don't like. I don't like how they cast. This is literally my last note from it. Just like how Fern is voiced by an adult woman. All of the little spiders, like when Charlotte's eggs hatch, they're all voiced by adults as well.
Yeah.
And they're just adults who are doing a voice like this. And they're all really tight. I think I'm actually doing it exactly the way it's done.
Good.
Yeah. And that doesn't work. Like, if you have, I don't understand it. If you have characters who are children, how is it so hard to get actors who are children?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
There's a term for them. They're called child actors. They don't even need to, they're not even on camera. You just have to record them.
Frickin' Avery is played by an actual child.
Oh, Danny Bonaducci?
Yeah, Danny Bonaducci's in this.
Yeah, he sure is.
As a child.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay.
The movie's fine. I don't ever need to see it again. I'll read the book instead. So that ends 1973.
Yeah.
Many years later. 33 years later, Charlotte's Web came to theaters again. This time, quote-unquote live action. From Nickelodeon Films.
And Walden fucking Media.
Yeah, why is it Walden fucking Media?
Oh, God. We hate Walden Media.
I don't hate Walden Media. I just am done with Walden Media. Like,
when their logo came up on screen, we looked at each other and we were mad.
Like, I feel like Walden Media, if anything's ever been made that's good from Walden Media, it happened despite Walden Media, not because of Walden Media's involvement.
I think we have watched one or two things.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, Narnia. I think that's the exception.
Like, that first Narnia movie's great.
Yeah.
It's great, and I assume we're hands-off on it.
Yeah.
And it's also exactly the movie they want to make. And they've, like, okay, we talked about it in the Narnia episode, but essentially, they definitely started as bringing, like, let's Christian-themed children's books to theaters.
They have a Christian perspective.
Yeah, but then they kind of moved away from that, like officially moved away from that, and went more towards just making adaptations of children's books. Like that was a big, like Bridge to Terabithia is Walden Media.
Well, I haven't watched that.
No, I know, but like Bridge to Terabithia is not like, I don't know, is there deep Christian allegory in Bridge to Terabithia?
No, but there's not in Charlotte's Web either. But hell if they tried to interject it.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that. Okay, So it was brought to us by them. Here's some people that made this. This was directed by a guy named Gary Winnick. He directed Tadpole. He directed 13 Going on 30.
Good.
Which is not a terrible movie. You've seen it, right?
No, I haven't seen it.
You never saw 13 Going on 30?
No, we should have watched it when we did Freaky Friday.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, there's a big Jennifer Garner, Mark Ruffalo dance scene.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's actually, it's not terrible. He sadly died at 49 from pneumonia resulting from metastasized brain cancer.
That sounds like a bad thing to have.
Super, super bad. I'm completely willing to bring it up in the context of this episode, though, because of course death is something that happens to everybody, and that's something that is okay. It does happen. It was written by a couple of different people. It was written by Susanna Grant, who had like several years earlier been nominated for an Oscar for her screenplay for Erin Brockovich.
Good.
Also starring Julia Roberts.
There it is.
As essentially the same character. Just helping out the little guy.
That's the funniest thing you've ever said.
Thank you. And also Carrie Kirkpatrick. He has done a number of different things. I feel like he's one of these people who's had more work as a script doctor and being brought in to work on something than as like an original screenwriter than anybody. He rewrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
Like Douglas Adams wrote the original screenplay for the movie. Carrie Kirkpatrick came in and wrote the new version of it.
Yes, and I know that many of you have not heard our Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy episode because it is our least downloaded episode of all time.
That's true.
So if you are interested in that story, you should listen.
Here's why it deserves to be our highest downloaded episode of all time.
Why?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is my favorite thing in the world.
Yes.
Here's why it doesn't deserve to be the highest downloaded episode of all time.
Because it was like our 4th episode and we didn't know what we were doing.
It's like, okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's not great. I wouldn't recommend going. Go listen to Jaws if you haven't listened to it.
Yeah, Jaws is real good.
That's a fun one. So those are the people that made this. I will say that I think they stepped up in terms of the music because they got Danny Elfman, who I think wrote a beautiful score for this movie.
Who, sidebar, once again this happened. We were listening to the Spider song and I went,
Well, there's no songs. This is music. It's music happening
spider
while...
music. It was
yeah,
spider music.
The spider music, the
There
web
was spider
music.
music, and I went, this sounds a lot like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And then I looked, and it was Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like really okay with like a composer's music sounding like their own music.
Yeah.
I guess that's okay. It's more like Tom Cruise acts like Tom Cruise in every movie.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with that. I don't know why I'm not okay with the Sherman Brothers music sounding the same in every movie.
I don't know. Maybe you have to re-examine your biases.
I would have to examine why that's plagiarism to me, and not just, an artist makes art and generally their art is similar. That seems like it should be okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Some people in this movie. Here's some humans that are in this movie. Fern is played by Dakota Fanning.
Yep.
What did you think of Dakota Fanning in this movie?
She at least was a child.
She's a child. Beyond that, what do you have to say? Because I have one thing to say about Dakota Fanning in this.
Yeah, what do you have to say?
Present and accounted for. She comes in, she reads the lines.
Is a child,
and that is it.
Yes.
I don't think she's right for this.
I think she's fine.
She's okay.
I just feel like she's doing all anybody could possibly ask for.
They definitely write Fern as a bit more powerful than Fern in the book. Would you agree with that?
It's a bit more modern.
Yeah, she's a bit more well-spoken. It's actually super funny. Like, we have kind of the opposite thing that we had in the animated version.
Mm-hmm.
We have a character that's the lines they're saying sound like the lines a child would say, but they're being spoken by an adult, so they sound stunted. But in this one, I think Fern sounds way more mature than a child of that age would be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is kind of par for the course for Dakota Fanning. That's kind of on brand for her.
Yeah, I mean, sidebar, like, her dialogue is very modern about, like, the justice of it. I mean, she talks a lot about justice in the original book, but there's sort of a social justice element to it, which is fine. But we had a hard time trying to figure out what decade this movie was set in.
Yeah.
Because from certain angles, it looks completely modern, especially like the men's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just wearing jeans and like jackets. Like they look like farm guys that you would see today. But then in any shot with a car.
If only there was a word for farm guys.
Yeah, farm.
Someone who works on a farm.
Farmer.
Oh, a farmer.
Farmers.
They are farmers.
The women's dresses are all kind of like 50s and 60s vintagey, but again, like you could see it as being like reminiscent of the 60s as opposed to being set in the 60s.
Yeah.
But I think it is supposed to be like the early 70s.
I think so.
Really just from the cars, like the cars alone.
No, totally. I think it's set then. I just think they had an art department that was probably spread a little thin.
Yeah, I don't think the costume budget for this movie was high.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing I get from it is that this was a movie where they wanted to do more but literally just couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know that necessarily people weren't up to the task.
Yeah.
I think they just weren't stretching for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Beau Bridges is in it as Dr. Dorian. I'm pretty sure he shot for one day on this movie.
Oh, yeah.
We have multiple scenes that all take place in his office on multiple days. Yeah. Now he's talking to Fern's mother in this.
So you said to me, you know this actress really well. And I said, no, I don't. And you said, they shot it in Australia. And I said, okay. And you said, so this is a blonde woman. And you said, picture her with dark hair in a severe bob. And I went, oh my God, it's Miss Fisher. I got so excited.
Give our audience the 30-second version of Miss Fisher. What's that? What are you talking about?
There's a very good Australian murder mystery show called Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. It's very good. There's a movie coming out soon. You should watch it. And also, fellow podcast, Every Lady Needs a Hobby is an episode-by-episode breakdown of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, which is also very good.
We will link to it in the show notes.
Fellow local Boston podcast.
They do a very good job.
Yes.
So those are some humans that are in it. Let's talk about some of the voice actors that are in this, that portray all of the animals. A couple of things they've done with the animals. There are a lot of them. Definitely more than in the book. Mm-hmm. They've multiplied a lot of them. Now there's multiple cows, multiple sheep, a couple of geese. There's a lot of like couples, like the geese are a husband and wife, basically.
Yep.
They all have names. So there's Samuel the sheep and Gussie the goose and Golly the gander and Bitsy the cow and Betsy the cow and Ike the horse and Brooks the crow and Elwyn the crow. Elwyn and Brooks, is that familiar to you in any way?
Tell me.
E.B. White.
Oh.
Yeah, they named the crows after E.B. White and also invented the characters, and they don't really do anything for the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did was they spent any budget that would otherwise have gone to costumes on getting very big names to come in and record for 45 minutes.
Essentially. Like, it's actually, it's a really weird thing to see a movie where every single actor who's on screen is clearly, like, not A-list.
Right.
And this isn't a knock against them. The vast majority of actors in the world are not A-list. That's a thing. And almost every single actor lending their voice to this is A-list.
Yes.
So here are some people that we have. As Elwyn the Crow and Brooks the Crow, we have Andre Benjamin, Andre 3000 himself, and Thomas Hayden Church. We have as Ike the Horse, Robert fucking Redford. As the cows, we have Kathy Bates and Reba McEntire. The geese are Cedric the Entertainer and Oprah Winfrey. Oprah goddamn Winfrey. Samuel the sheep. What'd you think of the sheep?
Sheep was great.
Yeah, why was he great?
Because he was John Cleese.
Because he's John Cleese. John Cleese can't not do a good job. He's always really, really good.
Incapable of not doing a good job.
Templeton the Rat, they got, just like Paul Lynde was kind of perfect for Templeton in the original,
Yeah.
they got basically the only like live action actor who makes sense to do this part. It's Steve Buscemi
Yep.
as Templeton. Does it incredibly good. I actually think Steve Buscemi does the best job of any actor in this, as far as not only doing a good job doing the voice, but also being a really good match for the character.
Yeah, I mean, Templeton, of all of the animals that aren't Wilbur or Charlotte, is the most, like, fully fleshed out character. So it makes sense that an actor would be able to do a good job with a character that has a little bit more behind him.
Yeah, and not only does he do a good job, I think he's actually a match for the material.
Totally.
I think Steve Buscemi's really well cast in this. I'm going to skip to Wilbur for a second. We've got someone named Dominic Scott Kay.
Who I believe...
Notably...
A child.
A child! Wilbur sounds like a kid. I have a lot of problems with the things that Wilbur says.
Yeah.
I don't actually have any problems with how he sounds, though.
That's good.
Do you?
No, I don't think so.
No, Wilbur sounds like a kid.
Yeah.
He sounds like a kid. He's good. That leaves two more people. We have the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they did the exact same thing that they did in the original. We've got someone really folksy. Now, we have someone really folksy who's also really, really good, and that's Sam Shepard.
Yeah.
This is good casting if what you're going for is folksy.
Folksy farm guy.
I disagree
understand that.
with that as a choice, but Sam Shepard is good in it. He does the thing he's hired to do. And that leaves us with Charlotte herself, who is portrayed by Erin Brockovich herself, Julia Roberts.
Julia, pretty woman, Roberts.
Yes. What'd you think of Julia Roberts as Charlotte?
I
Be
thought
honest.
that she sounded like they gave her some money and she came in and read some lines for 45 minutes and then went home to her mansion.
Charlotte, one might say, this is going to be, I don't know, this is probably going to be controversial.
I don't dispute any actor's right to make a living.
No, not even a little. Here's what I was going to say, though. I think Charlotte might be one of the most important characters to get right in Charlotte's Web.
Yeah.
Would you do you think that's crazy for me to say?
No, I would agree, especially because she is a spider and
Yeah.
people hate spiders.
Like, I really like the character design for her. I thought she was kind of cute. Like,
Yeah.
really off-putting. She was definitely still a spider.
Yeah.
They don't give her a human mouth. They made a really cool choice with her talking where she still has the, like, big mandibles coming down that a spider does.
Yeah.
But I really like the character design. There is the scene where she's, like, weaving the first web that's going to say "Some Pig" in it to the music that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I actually think that scene's gorgeous. I think it's gorgeous. I think she looks beautiful. Julia Roberts couldn't be flatter.
No.
Like, this isn't the character that you just come in and do. This is the character where you need to get someone who's going to carry the movie. Because Wilbur and Charlotte need to carry this movie.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure Julia Roberts knew she was playing a spider.
I mean, of course she did.
Do you know what I mean?
Like,
but
let's
she
be
just
fair,
was
of
reading
course
the
she
lines.
did.
Like, she wasn't directed in any way.
I don't blame her. I blame the director at this point.
I don't either.
Yeah, it's super weird. One of my notes is that I think the director was way more comfortable directing, like, the animals and directing, like, the animation for the animals than he was directing the live action actors. But then that goes out the window because Julia Roberts is nothing.
Yeah.
She's just totally flat and nothing. I do have something good to say about this movie.
I do too. Why don't you say yours?
Well, I have a number of things to say.
Okay.
One, it takes place in Maine,
Yeah.
which is good. That's notable.
However,
Yes.
It was filmed in Australia.
Well, you know, 2 steps forward.
Which does not look like Maine, even the tiniest little bit.
Nope. Sure doesn't. It's a bummer. There's a scene where it takes place in the autumn, and to make the trees red, they spray painted like 1,000,000 trees or something like that. It just that bummed me out. There's like more shenanigans in it. Like Fern takes Wilbur to school at the beginning of the movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like when he's a piglet.
Yeah, kind of.
And she gets kind of in trouble, but then nothing ever happens from it.
Yeah.
It's just shenanigans for the sake of shenanigans.
That's
it's just to pad the running time, and I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's a really shitty way to create drama throughout. Like, oh, is she going to get caught? Blah, 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 blah. Like, a lot of it didn't do it for me. Some of the writing was super weird.
Oh, can I talk about my favorite?
Yeah, what's your favorite
line? So there's this scene that is in the book where Charlotte is explaining to Wilbur that she has to catch her own food, and that is her like responsibility. Nobody comes and feeds her. Like people come and give him like slops in his trough or whatever. And she goes through the whole process of what happens when a fly gets caught in the web, which is like pretty lovingly described on E.B. White's part.
I'd say lovingly in that it's very, like, he's very straightforward about it.
Well, as you read before, like, he spent a lot of time observing the habits of spiders.
Yes.
So he talks about how she gives him a little shot of anesthesia and then wraps him up and then drinks the blood of the fly, and that is how she eats, because she is a spider, and spiders got to do what spiders got to do. And they just threw in this line, and I looked at you and said, fucking Walden Media, because the line is something she's going through this whole process, and then just drops in there, and then I say grace just because that's a nice thing to do. And I was like, what the hell? Why is a spider saying grace? That doesn't make sense even a little. Not even a little bit.
It's not in the book.
It's not in the book. Why put that in there?
There's no reason for that
There's
at
no
all.
reason for it.
There's a piece of writing throughout that really didn't do it for me. I feel like they're just desperately trying to add things that are going to expand on the characters and give us interesting things about the characters. So we find out that Charlotte is just a good Christian lady.
Yep.
That's something that's good. We find out that Wilbur loves good names.
Yeah.
Great names.
Yeah.
Like every single time he meets anybody and they introduce them and give him their name, because of course every single animal has a name, he always yells, "Great name!" And it's a cute little kid voice doing it.
But it didn't go anywhere. And I think the idea is that when he meets the big pig at the fair, whose name is Uncle, like that's supposed to be the payoff. Because he says great name when Uncle says my name is Uncle.
I don't know. I thought the payoff was when he meets Charlotte's kids and like one of them names themselves.
I guess, yeah.
Like I think it's all setting up that. I just think what they're doing is they're trying to give the audience something. They're trying to give Wilbur something that the audience can like grab onto. Like here is a character trait that this character has.
Yeah.
He is excited and young and naive and loves names.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
That's the big problem with it. God, Oprah didn't do the Goose voice right either. She reads it exactly the same as Agnes Morehead does, which is just too slow.
Very imposing.
I don't blame her either, because if you're Oprah and you're hired to be Oprah, and they probably, like, here's the deal.
You're hired to be
if
Oprah.
the biggest thing you've ever done in your life is direct 13 going on 30, and Oprah fucking Winfrey walks into the recording booth and you need to direct Oprah, how hard are you going to direct her?
Not hard.
Not hard at all.
Especially when you've got literally a conveyor belt of people of that stature like lining up outside that probably don't want to wait for their call time. Like, just, you're not going to direct her. You're not going to spend a lot of time with Oprah.
Like, I'm curious to know, because I don't really have access to this information, but I am curious to know, like, how much of these actors' lines were actually observed in the moment by the director.
Probably not many.
Maybe all of them. Maybe he absolutely was present for every single line reading for everything, like a good director would be.
Yeah.
But maybe he wasn't.
I'm gonna guess that he wasn't, for the reason that he was in Australia directing the live actors, and these people were probably not even all in Los Angeles. Like, Oprah probably just went down to like the studio in Chicago where she lives and like recorded these lines and they sent them in. Like,
It's probably like a phone thing where like
Yeah.
they would record, send them to him for notes, and then he would ask for like new recordings.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
but I think you're right. Like he couldn't have been there unless they did it way before or way after the fact.
yeah, and I'm sure in a movie like this, everything's like storyboarded out beforehand. They knew every line that Robert Redford needed to say,
Yeah.
and he went in for one day and did everything.
Totally.
We could be wrong about this.
Could be wrong.
I'm
This
not
is
100%.
Pure speculation.
They overdid Templeton a lot. Did you get that impression from it that they were like really, really leaning into how awful he was?
Yeah, and it wasn't like oh, it's Templeton, he does rat things because he can't help being a rat, which I felt like was kind of the moral of Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, like
it was like Templeton's evil. He's bad.
He's not like a particularly shitty rat.
Yeah.
He's just a rat.
He's just a rat.
And rats do what rats do. But this is like you get the impression from it that there's other rats out in the world who would look and say like, oh, Templeton? Yeah, I know him. He's a dick.
Yeah, and then there's this whole thing where Templeton like runs around they get him to come to the fair and help them because they tell him about all the food scraps that are going to be left over after everybody goes home for the night, and that's fine, but and that's a plot point. But then this version, like they showed him running around the fair like during the day, like when people were still there, which was totally not the thing that he's supposed to be doing, and also was disgusting because he got like all in the cotton candy and stuff. Like I wrote down cotton candy rat.
Yeah, he's in the cotton candy while people are eating the cotton candy.
Yeah.
It is too much. I don't like it. I have another one of my notes right here. They go that whole like Walden Media like layer on top of everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember the morality play about how Charlotte's ugly? All the animals,
oh yeah,
all the animals in the barn are like, oh, that ugly spider, that awful spider. They all of that, and the whole thing. They all have to learn a lesson by the end that she's actually like this beautiful, good person.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about not judging on appearances, which nobody needs to. In the original material, nobody needs to learn that lesson because everybody understands that a cow looks like a cow and a chicken looks like a chicken and a spider looks like a spider.
And like the whole thing in the book is that Wilbur is the naive child who needs to learn how life works. And every other animal understands that everyone dies. He's going to get killed. Spiders are spiders. They're fine. And he's the only one that doesn't understand it.
Right.
But in this one, he has to be wise beyond his years, and he has to teach all the other animals a lesson about not judging people.
That's right.
Which is not a bad lesson. It's just not the lesson for this story.
Yes.
Okay? The stupid puns. Do you remember all the egg puns?
Yeah, there were a lot of egg puns.
Like almost every animal has to only speak in puns about what type of animal they are.
Yeah.
Like one of my notes is
there were some sheep puns, I think.
The goose says exactly. And my note was go fuck yourself, movie. I hated that. And then immediately later, I don't even remember what the next one was, but my next note was just all caps, stop the egg puns, stop them now, I hate it. So they must not have stopped at that point.
Yeah, my only thing that I wrote down in all caps for this movie was hundreds of tiny spiders.
I know, you hated that.
I hated it.
They're fine.
They all start like taking to the skies once the egg sac hatches, like on their little like wings or whatever, and it was gross.
Do you remember how this movie doesn't even come out and say that the farmers are going to kill and eat Wilbur?
No, it really dances around it. And then towards the end, when the farmer is like, Wilbur has a place to live for the rest of his life, I turned to you and I was like, he's clearly going to hire him out to stud. Like,
essentially, yeah. But like, it's frustrating that they didn't even have the balls to do that. Like a children's book in the 50s could say that, yeah, they're going to kill him and eat him.
Yeah. Well, there was this very ominous like slaughterhouse that they kept like referring to, which didn't need to be there. It was very weird. Mm-hmm. It was weird.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things, and this is actually my last note, that I really liked about this movie, and this is going to sound like kind of a backhanded compliment, but I really liked it. The opening and closing animation is just beautiful.
Oh, gorgeous.
Like, I don't know who they got to do it, but the design and the way that it looks, it's like sort of pencil drawings of the different animals, and you kind of move through them in like almost a 3D way. Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. It has nothing to do with the style of the movie even a little. Imagine if they had done the whole movie like in that beautiful style.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah. No, they did a great job, and it looks like the illustrations from the book.
Yeah.
Like it really is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I found something while we were watching, and I'm remembering it now from my notes. I don't always review my notes before we do this, and I am finding something incredible. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Arable, Fern's dad, is played by an actor named Kevin Anderson.
Okay.
All right. Do you remember me mentioning this?
Kind of.
His IMDb bio is the most incredible thing I have ever read in my entire life.
Okay.
I can't read it because it's too long.
Okay.
It is so goddamn good. I'm going to give here's some highlights.
Yeah, some selections, please.
Kevin Anderson has been a Steppenwolf Theater Ensemble member for 35 years. Okay, there's some stuff. He made his feature film debut in the Warner Brothers hit Risky Business with Tom Cruise, yet his real career breakthrough and first big break came with Steppenwolf Theater's Orphans. Won the Joseph Jefferson Award. What those two things I read are separated by like easily 200 words. There's a lot in between them. He has always been drawn to compelling characters and powerful dramas. Giant paragraph follows.
Wait, what is the giant paragraph about? Like,
it's just about all the things he's done. Okay. But it keeps going. I want to read the last two paragraphs.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
In the fall of 2010,
God.
Kevin walked into a bank in Chicago to withdraw money from the very first bank account that he had opened when he first started out from his salad days and humble beginnings. The money was gone. He later painfully discovered that the money and account had been garnished by the IRS due to 6 to 8 years of unfiled taxes that his quote-unquote business manager had agreed to be responsible for, and shockingly had acquired a $100,000 tax bill. Thus began a decade-long twisting and turning nightmare in which he slowly discovered and came to believe, piece by piece, like putting together a scattered jigsaw puzzle, that his former business manager, Arthur B. Green, had defrauded him of millions of dollars, and also believed that the accounting firm Marks Paneth that Green had merged with in early 2009 had helped hide the fraud. In December of 2014, let me finish, having already sought unsuccessfully from countless lawyers and unable to afford legal advocacy as he came to realize and believe that almost all of his savings had been absconded with, right? Kevin filed a lawsuit pro se in the federal court in the Southern District of New York against Arthur B. Green and Mark Paneth, alleging fraud, racketeering, malpractice, and breach of fiduciary duty, among
What is
other
happening
claims.
right now?
Ultimately, the judge dismissed many of these claims primarily due to statute of limitations issues. That does not mean that these crimes did not actually happen. It simply means that Kevin was too late in prosecuting the wrongdoers and bringing forth his claims in a timely fashion, as the cancerous relationship with Green had endured for almost 30 years. There is very much room for dispute on this, however. Based on the legal concept, the doctrine of estoppel, if a defendant does anything to mislead or prevent a plaintiff from learning of any malfeasance, wrongdoing, or fraud, that the statute of limitations could be extended or told. Oh my God. Like, I'm skipping a little bit.
Wait.
Although this nightmare has been extremely stressful and disturbing and has literally turned his entire world upside down.
Not literally.
It has also given him the opportunity to re-examine his life and why he got into acting in the first place, to press the reset button and to pursue his career and dreams again with a clean slate and an open heart.
I mean,
it has taken a Herculean effort on Kevin's part to rebuild trust after such a wounding and abusive experience, but it has also transformed him and has only made him stronger and more conscious in his pursuit of excellence and a deeply felt desire and commitment to use his talents for a greater good and to help and be of service to others. He feels it is important to let the entertainment industry know exactly why he has been off the radar for some time, and that he is now back and ready to tackle this next stage of his career. If you care to read more about this case, go to Pacer, Southern District of New York, case number 14 CV 10249 KPF, to read more on Kevin's personal views on the case and how it has affected his life.
Two things. One,
yes,
this man is a crazy person.
Who do you think wrote all that?
Obviously, Kevin wrote this.
I think Kevin did.
I do appreciate that.
I want to be clear, we're not making fun of Kevin. We're not. We're not.
He's been through a lot.
This sucks. This clearly sucks. There's a time and a place, though.
I do appreciate that by the end,
Yeah.
he has brought it back around to information that is even tangentially appropriate for someone's IMDb bio. Like, he really comes full circle.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I have nothing else to say.
Oh, but let's get back to this movie for a second. Okay, like, there's, oh, God damn it. Do you want to just let's end this movie?
Let's end the podcast.
Let's end this movie. Let's end on a couple of things right here.
Okay.
I have so many other notes about this, and it sucks because almost every single one of my notes is negative about this movie.
Yeah.
Is that kind of true for you too?
Yeah.
Like, how many of your notes are positive?
Nice animation.
Yeah, I said the animation is really beautiful.
Yeah.
I have that in here. I do think the scene with Charlotte weaving her web and the music is gorgeous. And they do the same thing that the original movie, the animated movie, did, which was they didn't fuck with the plot that much.
No.
It still is Charlotte's Web beginning to end.
Yeah, just with shenanigans added.
So many shenanigans. And like, yeah, they don't add songs, but they add shenanigans. And that's not what E.B. White wanted.
Right.
I thought Charlotte's funeral was well done. Like the quote unquote funeral.
Right.
Like when all the animals are talking about her. Like, I actually think that was kind of sweet, even though it does play into the whole morality tale of how they shouldn't have judged her based on how she looked. They should have liked her the whole time. Because in the book, they do like her the whole time. They're fine with her.
Yeah.
And God, I'm just ending. This isn't positive, but like, Walden Media ruined a good cry. They ruined a cry. There was the moment at the end where when I was reading the book and Charlotte, when all of her babies hatch, I was worried I was going to cry recording this, but now like Kevin Anderson has gotten me into such a frothing fervor. Any tears are gone.
Ow, I just like pulled something.
But like, I was worried I was going to cry, even talking about Charlotte's kids all getting born. And I don't have that in me now. And I didn't have it when we were watching this movie. I had it when we were watching the animated one. I certainly had it when we were reading the book.
Yeah.
But in this version, like, all the kids are getting born, and there is a huge disconnect between me and the characters at this point that's based on so many things that have happened in this movie to draw that wedge between me and the experience.
Yeah.
So many puns, so many unnecessary characters, so many unnecessary shenanigans, so many ways where they're too willing to detract from what E.B. White was originally trying to do, which was to tell a simple story for kids about death.
Yeah.
Which I don't say that. No, I don't mean to say that to be like funny. Right. Like, it is a simple story for kids about death, and that's one of the things that makes it so beautiful about the way he handles it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this movie isn't willing to do that. This movie is afraid to do that.
Yes.
And I don't appreciate that. And then at the end, all the animals are friends now, and just like, the fuck is wrong with that? It's honestly bullshit.
The end.
I hate that. Wrapping up, I guess. Are you? Do you have anything else to say at this point?
No, I'm done. I've said everything.
You've done all your notes.
Yes, I mean, my only note that on the second movie that we have not covered, I do not remember when this came in, but it must have been towards the beginning because it's my very first note after I wrote Walden Media, which is I wrote, "Don't say teats."
Yeah.
So apparently there was some language in this movie that disturbed me.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Here's my big thing, my big takeaway from watching both of these movies. Because even though so many of my notes from both of them are negative, at the end of the day, like, these movies are fine. Like, these movies are not terrible movies. Like, if a parent's going to show their kid either of these versions of Charlotte's Web, they're not making a mistake by doing that.
No.
Like, they're fine. They're fine. They're good, solid kids movies.
And I don't think they take away from the appreciation of the book either.
No. They definitely don't. And because they actually, like, do respect the material enough to stick with the original material.
Right.
Then they add a lot of stuff, but they don't, like, they're not taking away things. They're not changing the basic conceit of the story. Like, E.B. White in one of the letters, you can see it if you read the article that I linked to, you dear listener. E.B. White, like, he was dead set against anyone changing the ending to make it happy and having Charlotte show up again. Like, Charlotte needs to die at the end. That's the way he wrote the story.
And they do that in both of these.
Exactly. Here's my big problem, though. This isn't just some kid's book. This is one of the best books written for children, I think, of all time. Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to adapt this material, I really think you can't just show up and do it. More is expected from you as a creator than if this wasn't based on something that was such a classic.
Yeah.
And we did another episode about 2 times where I think this happened, where the opposite happened, where a book that was a classic was adapted by someone who had a really strong viewpoint and a really strong style. And that was when we did our dual episode on Where the Wild Things Are and Fantastic Mr. Fox, which were adapted by Spike Jonze and Wes Anderson.
Yes.
I'm not saying that children's, like, really good movies based on children's books can only be made by, like, auteurs, like modern auteurs.
No, but you're saying the director should have a point of view.
Yes. And the point of view should be more than just, I have a screenplay, I'm going to shoot it.
Yes.
And by the way, I got Oprah Winfrey and I got to hang out with Robert Redford for a day while he recorded.
Maybe.
Maybe. That can't be the only thing.
Yeah.
These movies are fine, and that's actually a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think that's bad. If you're going to adapt Charlotte's Web, it needs to be really good. You need to spend the time making it great. It has to be intentional. It has to have care taken in it. And I don't think either of these movies have that. And that's my biggest knock against them. And that might be harsh, but I don't think you should set yourself up for this kind of thing if you're going to adapt material.
Yeah.
Do you think that's too harsh?
No, I literally, like, you just talked for a while, but I literally think all you're arguing for is for someone somewhere to have a point of view, which is literally what our quadrants are about.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you want to do the quadrants really quickly?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about 1973. Do you think that the creators of this movie cared about the source material?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, it got, like, passed down. It was, like, the third try. Like, it got passed down to them. It wasn't their idea. No, I don't think they cared.
Like, I think they like Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, I think they got something out of it.
Yeah, because I think anyone can.
Yeah.
But, like, I agree with you. I don't think they particularly cared about it.
No.
Were they successful?
Yeah, right on the line for me.
Right on the line.
Right on the line.
Right?
Like I think they made a good adaptation that didn't stray too far from the heart of the book. Like, we did say that. I think ultimately it is a kids movie with not a lot for like adults on adult levels. But whereas the book is a kid's book with something for everyone.
Yes.
And I think this movie was not playing to an adult audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to go so far as to say it was unsuccessful.
And I think you hit on something really important that goes along with what I was saying, that, like, one of the things that's great about the book is that E.B. White actually respects children enough to talk about death.
Yes.
Like, he's willing to talk about themes that are going to upset children, and yet it's still one of the greatest kids' books ever written, and it's so beloved by so many people. So it's weird for me that a movie would shy away from that.
Yeah.
In the effort to be a kids' movie. Because clearly the book works, so why wouldn't a movie work?
Right.
And then we've got the new one. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Not really.
No,
No.
like, not particularly. I think they like Charlotte's Web because everybody does. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Is it successful?
I'm going to say no for the very reason you just said, which is that they do really shy away from, like, ultimately what, like, they get the plot right, but ultimately what the story is about, they shy away from it.
Yeah, like, even though it has no songs, it actually does stray further from the themes of the book than even the animated one did.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you willing to call it unsuccessful?
I'm going to call it, like, on the other side of the, yeah, I'm going to call it unsuccessful.
God, so this is the worst one. They didn't care and they did a bad job, which is weird because it is fine. It's not a bad movie, but it's I don't think it's a good adaptation.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that's the worst because it's just, like, bland and not enjoyable. Like, if something's really bad, we at least sometimes get a good laugh out of watching it.
Yeah, and for this one, I had to go to, like, IMDb bios to get a good laugh out of this thing.
Oh my god.
Ah, man. Do you have anything else to say about our dear friend
Charlotte and her web?
Charlotte and her web. How do you feel about spiders?
I hate them.
Yeah, I know. I feel really bad about it. They're not that bad.
Terrible.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. And if you tweet about the show, don't forget to use the AdaptCast hashtag. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are two great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated.
Hey, babe.
Hey, what's up?
You are some podcaster.
Oh, that's really nice. For whatever reason, I thought you were going to say you are some dude.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. That's what I heard in my head. Bye.